Hi, I'm Justin Boyd.
Hi, I was very confused towards the end of this episode.
Aha. Interesting. Get it?
That was good. And we are the Watchers in the Basement.
Welcome to the Watchers in the Basement. We are here today to discuss Season 2, Episode 4 of The Last of Us, episode titled Day 1. Let's get right to it. Let's don't waste any time. Tristan, I want to get your overall thoughts on Episode 4, Day 1.
I thought, and I'm trying not to be too prison in the moment, I thought it was a phenomenal episode of television. Or at least it had a lot of elements of a phenomenal episode of television. I can guarantee you, and I'm willing to bet this, I know who most people did not think about close to much at all in this episode. Guess. It's Joel.
Oh, yeah.
This was
You shut your mouth.
Like, obviously there's a reference to Joel, and there's a lot of elements of Joel in our main characters, but I think this is an episode that was perfectly situated as kind of episode 3 was your transition from the big death and Joel's death in episode 2, but this was a perfect episode to reorient you into like this new story, and to tell you like, hey, the story was bigger than Joel all the time. We just didn't notice it because he and Ellie were so central to the overall story. But the story was never just about Joel. It was never really just about Ellie. It was never just about Joel and Ellie. It was about so many things. This Last of Us, the us is so expansive. And now this, this season, this story has tilted towards Ellie and Dina and their journey and what their future life could look like in Seattle and like the different factions that are happening there, and it's all telling this larger story. So I thought this episode was perfect in the sense of kind of moving the audience, or just reorienting our mental focus on, hey, this was always a story, right? We're just giving you a different perspective now. And just I thought Bella Ramsey in particular, but also Isabela Merced, put up A+ performances in just different ways, emotionally, like with the action, like this, just the dialogue. They put up A+ performances in my opinion. I just rewatched it, so I don't feel like I'm living in a moment from like last night. Last night I was like, man, this is some good ass acting. And we'll talk about like different scenes, and I'll try to explain the brilliance of each one of those scenes. But just overall, those two put up some in a group chat, I compared it to LeBron and Kyrie in 2016. It was like just A+ performance back to back. Steph and KD in 2017. Look that up, Brittany.
No, I appreciate you putting it in layman's terms, though. Thank you for us non-sport speaking individuals.
So yeah, like this is at worst a 9.5 type of episode for me personally. I don't know how much that will resonate with everyone, because for me, I guess knowing the story, I know how much of the story has moved and how much happened in this episode. But I think it's more subtle you can see this as more subtle if you're not a knower of the story, a game player. But for me, having that perspective, so much of the story has kind of moved forward, and I think it's at a perfect pace. But I'm interested to hear from our non-game players what you thought about this episode.
Brittany, take it away.
So I mean, every episode obviously builds in terms of story, right? I think the title Day 1 in Seattle was very appropriate. A lot happened for Ellie and Dina to enter into a city that in its heyday, very pro LGBT community, what have you, they would have thrived in this city, right? I've mentioned before, I've been to Seattle. I don't believe we actually ventured into Capitol Hill. I wish I did at this moment now, because I was like, oh, hey, look, I've been there. But sadly, no. But for them to not realize what the rainbow flag meant, and how it obviously applies to them, I thought that was like a nice, subtle kind of nod. However, to get more information about the Seraphites and how Fedra, or WLF, I'm still going to refer to them as Wolf, how all that kind of plays into the story that we're receiving. And then Isaac, played by the wonderful Jeffrey Wright. I don't really see him as villain, but I'm very interested in seeing his character. And I learned from watching the inside of the episode that he voiced the same character in the game. So that's actually really cool. I think it's always great when you're able to bring in the actual actor to assume the live action role of their character. So I think that's brilliant. Man, he's ruthless. Very, very methodical and ruthless, it seems. The Seraphites apparently very ruthless as well in their own right. And these damn clickers and infected, ew, still ew. But the big reveal, Dina shares with Ellie, and of course Dina seeing that Ellie is indeed immune to the infected bites, that caught me off guard super bad. I think a lot of people out there who are non-game players like myself and like Justin were like, what? Like, in this moment, you choose to announce this big revelation. And then what happens next was, again, not something I expected, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later. I was just very confused. I was like, I guess in times of desperation, or where you think you're going to lose someone that you love, you kind of need a sense of relief. Boy, did they. That being said, I mean, the story is progressing. Is it one of the better episodes in my personal opinion? Maybe not. I still, the episode where Joel died, because he is still on my mind, Tristan, despite what you may think and say. I think that's one of the better ones for me. But we did get that little nod to Joel, where Ellie is playing this very pristine looking acoustic guitar, and sings "Aha," "Take on Me" or "Take Me On," whatever the title is. And I think she did well. There's some criticism behind her guitar playing, whether it was real or not, but we'll talk about that later. But overall, I think this episode, it was good. It's just not one of my top episodes of this season.
Bella Ramsey, accomplished guitar player.
Yes, I know, but coworkers of mine who are also guitar players, very critical about whether or not she actually was live, playing it live, or because they're like, oh, the finger movements, it's just same like 2-3 chords, and I'm like, listen, my brother plays guitar, I don't know anything about it, but like, I know she plays guitar. I know she learned the song to play it on the screen, and I'll say, nice little voice that Bella has, right? Good job not attempting that falsetto. Good golly, I can't do that falsetto in the end. So I like the arrangement of how Bella sang the song.
Yeah, the song was great. As far as like her, telling Dina that she was immune, actually that didn't surprise me, because last week we talked about the look ahead, where it showed at the very end of the look ahead that Dina turning the gun on Ellie, and I was like, that has to be the reason, because otherwise, like, why would she feel like she has to shoot Ellie? So I thought that all that stuff was well done. This show's just well done. I don't know that this is my favorite, but it was a really good episode. I think they're all really excellent episodes, and it's a lot of ingredients are involved. I did notice this episode is directed by Kate Herron, who that name might be familiar for some of us because she did Loki season 1. She was the director and the executive producer of Loki season 1. So very cool to get her in this world. But this show's also has a ton of great characters, and I wanted to go to Tristan here. Let's talk about the newest character, which we knew he was going to be in the show. And obviously, Tristan, you have the experience of playing the game, and he's in the game. And Brittany said before, it's Jeffrey Wright voicing his character Isaac, and we get this like kind of his backstory where he is with Fedra. I guess he's like an officer with Fedra, and then he flips on them. Maybe obviously for for what he feels are just reasons. And then we find out he's now the kind of the leader of WLF or Wolf. Tristan, what do you think about seeing Jeffrey Wright in person, in live action, where you played the game and he voices the same character? How would you compare the live action to the video game? And was it just kind of a continuation of what he did in the video game?
It's the continuation. I'd say it's the latter. It's kind of eerie because when you're playing the game, his Jeffrey Wright's voice is as distinct as they come. So hearing him or seeing him on the actual show in live action is like you feel like you're playing the game at the same time. Like it's that much of a continuation. And I say continuation also because we don't really get a backstory on Isaac in the game. And what you do learn about him, you learn from like these notes that are scattered around different places that Ellie finds and reads, notes that people have left behind before they died or to pass on to other wolves, whatever. But to get like a full scope of like his backstory, tells it, like for me as a game player, like, offers a little bit of an education about Isaac that I didn't get, that I didn't already know. Like, who he is in the game in the moment. He's ruthless. That he's very intelligent, like worldly. It can be really fair at times, like you see in we may see in the season. But like seeing where that comes from and seeing like the complexity of his ideologies and how that kind of juxtaposes with who he is now. Like we see the ruthless part, right? But we also see the semblance of like justice, like somebody who at the very least sees like these fascist, officers as like assholes. You know what I'm saying? Like we're supposed to feel that with him, like, man, like these dudes are assholes. Like I wouldn't mind if something bad happened to them. So that gives a justification for him, flipping on them in such a gruesome way. But yeah, it's just really good to like know more and understand, at least get some clues into like who he is and what he actually believes in, because it's going to conflict with his actions, as we see when he's interrogating the Seraphite later on in the episode. On my rewatch, I didn't notice, first of all, it's quick timeout. This episode, came on last night during a game 7 between my favorite team and favorite player. So I'm watching on the television, me and my wife, and I'm also watching the game on the iPad. So I'm flipping back. So I rewatched before this, we hopped on, and I didn't notice him take the grenades off and throwing in before he locked it. You kind of notice like the subtle moments in the conversation with him and Miss Hereferin or something like that, the woman leader of the WLF. You notice, so you kind of you're able to like better disseminate. Okay, he's going to flip on it, like, and I thought it was brilliant how brilliant or just mercy that he would take the new recruit who obviously didn't really share fully, or hadn't at least gotten to the point where he shared the same sentiments and as the rest of the soldiers, to give him a choice, like, hey bro, get down or lay down. You know what I'm saying? Like you can roll with us, or you can end up like them, because he sees them as like a relic of the past, like that way of thinking. Again, this is a dude who was around. Isaac was a military veteran before the apocalypse, and then he became a federal commander. So like he understands what the world was like before, and what we consider right and wrong. So he's kind of carried a lot of that into this new world, post-apocalypse. But the flip side of that is that in his belief of that ideology has made him a lot of what he ultimately hates. That's funny like that.
Yeah. It's like he flipped on Fedra, but then he's kind of turned, or WLF has become the new Fedra. It seems like the kind of the same stuff. Brittany, what'd you think about this opening scene and like meeting Isaac and see? I mean, I honestly, the grenade flip thing was so badass. Like it was so like nonchalant, cool. Like then they realize what happened, and it's like boom, they're dead. What'd you think about the opening scene?
First of all, to Yesenia's point, shout out to Yesenia and King B. Johnson for joining us in today's live chat. Yesenia says the cameos took me by surprise. As good or as bad as Ed Sheeran? And if you're referring to Josh Peck in the opening of this episode, yeah, I was kind of taken aback too, because I'm watching this intro and I see him talking and he's just cursing up a storm. And I'm like, that guy, I know that guy. I remember him from Nickelodeon. Yeah. Never watched his show, but I know who he is.
He was in Oppenheimer also.
Oh, that's right. He was. I forgot about him in Oppenheimer. Wow. Good point. Yeah, I was taken aback by Josh Peck having a very brief role in this episode. Not long for this world. He gone. The shit talking that he and the rest of the Fedra soldiers are going on about, and then you have that one. I don't know if we got his name or not, but the one who questioned, well, why do you call them voters? Right? This is someone who's, in my opinion, like a greenhorn. Doesn't really know his way around being a Fedra military person, whatever. And for Isaac to have selected that one guy to come out of the van and say, hey, come with me. You may learn something, because the other ones were obviously so like corrupt. Now I won't say corrupt, but they already have their formed opinion and they're all in agreement. They're laughing about the same thing, what have you. And the other one's just like questioning. His mind and his way can be molded to fit what Isaac is about to do. Right. And it's brilliant, really, because you can see just how quickly a weak-minded individual can really just be swayed. And yes, to your point, Justin, the grenade, just casual, like, throw him into the van and close the door. And you just hear the pops go off. And then the driver tries to get out, save himself. No, Isaac takes him down too with his gun. And then he looks to that young man and says, decide what you want to do. And the guy would be stupid if he were to go against Isaac. And now this other group of people that have clearly welcomed Isaac into their war, if you will, right? I thought that was just brilliantly well done to introduce this character, to kind of understand just how he is, and he will basically do whatever it takes to take that next step.
Yeah, and if you didn't think that was a way to show you that, the next scene we see with Isaac was the interrogation scene or torture scene, more like it. Tristan, what are your thoughts on that scene? Is there anything like that in the game? Because that seemed like maybe too extreme for a video game, maybe, and that maybe not any video game, but a very popular AAA video game probably wouldn't have that.
I don't think that's too. I played Last of Us. That's not too far in Last of Us. No, you don't see that in the game.
Yeah.
We don't. Everything that we understand about the war between the WLF and the Seraphites is told through secondhand, third-hand information. Like, you see it through notes. You see, or I mean, not all the way. Some there's some firsthand. Where like there. I don't want to spoil anything. Like, let me stop there. But like, you see, if there's some, obviously firsthand accounts and information, but like the majority of it, you just kind of. You hear from a few people, in a game or in notes or stuff like that, or some of the dialogue. But like, this was a very in your face, like explanation of like the start of it. Right. So like, this is a little bit more than we get in the game of like, how did this begin between them? You know what I'm saying? And really what it comes down to is tribalism. You're like, just ideologies, ways of lives, and like, a misunderstanding of other factions and how they live and what they stand for, which leads to like more tribalism, which leads to obviously violence, a continued cycle of violence, which ultimately leads to like dehumanization. We see that on both sides, like in a lot of the deaths that both sides have incurred. But what you learn more about Isaac is, again, he's somebody who appreciates like culture and appreciates, fine things, and has passions, talents. Like he was somebody who could cook. He tells you about how he was shy with, women and he used cooking as a way in. So like he has some charm, you know what I'm saying, even through the shyness. But he's ruthless, you know, and he can very quick, like, don't mistake the intelligence and how, you know, the soft spokenness and the articulation. Like he can snap right into ruthlessness very quickly. And I thought it was brilliantly played by, you know, obviously Jeffrey Wright, who's elite, you know, thespian. And I think the guy's first name was Brandon, or something like that. But the Seraphite, but like just portraying that will, like, hey, I'm willing to die behind this. Like, and I'm not gonna allow you to have the power over me, but like threatening to inflict me with violence. Like I'm willing to go through this violence because they believe so much in the prophet, you know, right? Like, which we'll hear a lot more about as the season progresses. But that belief is strong, and especially in the game, that belief is very strong amongst the Seraphites. And this is a show kind of giving you more insight about who this group is, you know, who we see get slaughtered in the previous episode. And we see, you know, some of their actions as we get through the rest of this episode. But like the show wants you to know how much they believe in it and how far they're willing to go in their belief in this prophet.
Yeah, the Seraphites, which Isaac refers to as scars, which is, you know, it's I thought that's kind of interesting because he gives them, I mean, obviously they do have scars in their face, but to me it's almost kind of like in the first scene where the Josh Peck character is saying, like, you know, calling these people voters, they took away their voting rights. And it's like, you know, it's kind of pejorative kind of term with these, maybe not because they literally have a scar, but like I feel like there's something being said where he's kind of like becoming what he hates.
We also know they clearly prefer to be called Seraphites. Like that's the name of their religion. Like,
yeah. It just seems like he's definitely becoming what he didn't like, you know, 11 years before. Brittany, sticking with the torture scene with the saucepans and stuff, it's pretty tough to watch, but the Seraphite, he will not be broken. Thus, Isaac decides to shoot him. Before he shoots him, he says, "Look, you're going to lose." This is the Seraphite talking to Isaac. He says, "You know, every day a wolf leaves you to become a Seraphite, and none of the Seraphites ever become a wolf." And you can tell, like, Isaac, you know, obviously they have the upper hand because of the technology they have and probably the manpower and everything else. But what the guy is saying is probably not wrong.
I wouldn't think so, because I feel like at some point, people perhaps who have been fighting in this war for quite some time, they begin to question, what am I even fighting for at this point? What's my purpose? Yeah. Right. And a lot of people could turn to religion or a higher power to find some kind of purpose. And when it's presented to them in a fashion where the things that they've been doing for so long are wrong, and they want to feel better about themselves or have salvation of some kind, yes, they will quickly drop their weapons and leave and not look back. Whereas those who have a foundation of, let's say, faith of some kind, that to their, in their defense, they will defend their kind, their people, and their beliefs, but perhaps unless it's provoked, if you will. But those who are steadfast in their faith may not leave their faith necessarily to join the fight against them, right? Those that are being hunted. So there has to be some kind of truth in what that Seraphite spoke to Isaac about. And I think for Isaac to result back to violence of some kind with that saucepan that he's got fired up on the gas oven. By the way, where's this gas coming from? Like, how many years of gas, propane, whatever do they got stored up? I'm curious, same thing with just gas for the vehicles, but that's beside the point. I'm not supposed to think about these things, but I do.
If I could, like, the WLF in Seattle, like, if you notice when they're in Seattle day one, like, they're noticing like Fedra completely wiped out. Like the WLF, just like the group in Kansas City in season one, they essentially took all of Fedra's resources. like they overran Fedra, right? So it'll be essentially like overrunning the U.S. government, and like, oh, now we have access to all your guns, all your tanks, all your
but
gasoline
resources
reserve.
will run out at some point. This is already 5 years into the future from the end of season 1, so I don't know just how much more time until they tap out of the resources, but that's a good point. Going back to what I was saying about how the Seraphite was just willing to have his other hand burnt by that skillet, and Isaac just realizes in that moment, like, I'm not going to win, and this is exactly what the Seraphite was talking about. You're going to lose, and therefore Isaac resorts to the last strategy I guess he had, and that's just to kill the guy. Right? He's not going to get whatever information he thinks the Seraphite may have, or he's probably just never going to be pleased with the information the Seraphite would give up if he were to give up anything. So what do? You just cut out, you just cut him out, and that's what he ended up doing. But on the other side of the doors, you're hearing two WLF members. One's like, "Oh my God, like this is horrible," and you hear someone off screen who says, "Shut up." Isaac knows what he's doing. And then we finally get to see who that person was, and it was that young man from the Fedra moment, years prior. And it's, he's just kind of been brainwashed into doing and believing it, I guess, in whatever Isaac does and believes. So it's kind of a sad moment for that guy. He's probably not long for this world either. Just saying.
We'll see. I mean, definitely a strong introduction to Isaac and his side of the story. So we'll definitely get more of that as the season progresses, I would expect. Now let's get to Ellie and Dina, because their first day in Seattle, it's a day. It's a long day. Lots of stuff happens. Let's start talking about it. They kind of find themselves like in what seems like kind of a peaceful area, but then they notice that there's dead bodies. Like it looks like maybe the battle between Fedra and WLF had happened a while ago, or maybe, and as Ellie points out, it looks like maybe Fedra kind of took themselves out. I don't know if that's supposed to be a reference to what we saw with the scene with Isaac. You think so, Tristan?
Same tank.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I didn't really notice the tank when Isaac and them were doing it back in 2018, but I guess it was there. I just didn't notice the tank. So.
Yeah, I think the tank was there when the what is it now, WLF, when they were approaching, and they're kind of coming from like unknown areas. I think a couple of them came around from the tank, because the school bus was what was blocking them from progressing forward on the road, but that tank, I believe, was there.
Makes sense. Okay. That makes sense. Then we get let's get to the they find the music store. This is where Ellie gets the guitar and serenades Dina. You can see Dina is like kind of like falling in love while Ellie's playing a Haas Take on Me. We talked about that a little bit. In the making of the episode, Neil Druckmann mentioned that this scene is like a fan favorite for players of the game. And so Tristan, I want you to talk about that. Like, how was this similar to the game? Was it exactly the same thing, or what are your memories of playing that part in the game?
Well, first, just the way it was shot on the show is some of the most beautiful scenery that I've seen in a while. It is pretty similar in the game. I think, like they mentioned, a lot of people miss it because you have the option of skipping it. But for me, like any chance I got to play the guitar on that. She does same song, and it's so brilliantly played by Bella and Isabela, because you can see for the first time in a long time, like just pure joy in Ellie, like just kind of radiating off of, like, you got the sun kind of beaming it behind and everything there, and Isabela just kind of like those just cat eyes, like just like you can tell like the feelings there and the emotion there, and you can see what she's feeling like. And this was one of the first times in the episode where I was like, oh, they are cooking together. Those two are cooking together. But like, great performance by Bella Ramsey. it made me go, listen to Take On Me. I didn't listen to that shit in a minute, man. I think it was in like GTA or something.
Did you attempt the falsetto at the very end?
I always try,
Well,
failed horribly.
What's crazy about that song, just to kind of sidetrack for a second, that song was a massive hit. Like, it came out in 1985, it was a huge hit, like even into the 90s. Like, it was still getting like radio play. But like, it wasn't until the song, so we heard the stripped down acoustic song version, which I think was like in the earlier mid 2000s, before it really, like, I was like, this is a really good song, because it just seemed like it was like a kind of cheesy pop. It's
Super cheesy.
upbeat. Yeah.
It's definitely a song of the times, you know what I'm saying?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, the 80s were so, like, were chock full of like one-hit wonders who had like the biggest song of the year. I mean, I guess we've always had one-hit wonders in some respect, but the 80s was like the decade of that, where it's like almost every major song from the 80s, if it wasn't like Michael Jackson or Madonna or like Whitney Houston, it was like somebody, like, you've heard the song your whole life, gun to your head, you couldn't tell me the name of the band. I mean, Aha has always been an easier one because it's 3 letters, like it's always, and like their video was very revolutionary at the time, but the stripped down version of this song really kind of takes it to like a whole nother level.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
Like that's the first time I've heard any other version of that song.
Yeah.
So like, I honestly didn't recognize the song because I haven't really played the game in 2 years. I think I replayed it, or at least I got to about halfway through until I stopped. Just wasn't ready to deal with all that stress, but I didn't recognize the song until you pretty much got to the chorus. But like you said, hearing it kind of stripped out and just kind of listening to the lyrics, it's like, no, this is more than like the cheesy 80s super pop song that you kind of recognize it for. Like, when I listen to that song, it's, you're kind of happy and shit, and like you start listening, like, it's really not that happy. Like, this is a very well written song, but I think it's also the perfect song for Ellie and Dina, like just in that moment. It's an intimate song because, again, these are 2 children of the apocalypse, what I'm saying? Like, this isn't a song that they would have heard outside, at a party or driving around. Like, they don't have those experiences with this type of song. So like, all Ellie knows from this song is what she gets from Joel, and it becomes like a different for both of them. It's a connection to Joel, not just her playing it, but like the actual choice of song, because this isn't looking, Wankster or something like that, something like that, that came out right before, even then though. Like, so for me, like, that's the connection to Joel in this episode. And like I said, without it, and I think rightfully so, there's not a lot of time, honestly, to like think about Joel, because it doesn't really come up. Like, Bella Ramsey with the seeing how well she's progressed with the guitar, again, for game players, there's so many flashbacks of Joel teaching. Like, we see that, and maybe we see that, later on in the season, but it's a definite connection to like their bond. Like, and so much of their bond is wrapped up in that guitar, is wrapped up in music that, Joel is trying to put her on, that she's, obviously never heard before. So just a brilliant scene. One of probably my favorite scene, or second favorite scene in this episode. One of my favorite scenes of the season so far.
Yeah, no doubt. Definitely a major moment in the episode and the season. Brittany, what did you think about this scene? And as Tristan said, it does remind us of Joel, which we haven't had much time to think about him because it's such a, go kind of episode. But what'd you think about the scene?
I think it's nice for Ellie to have those moments where she can have that connection with Joel. There was a lot left unsaid between the two of them, and a lot of people can find solace in music, of course, right? It reconnects them to their love of someone or a common interest, right? And because in season 1, inside the episode, we saw that flashback of Joel and Ellie walking, and he asked her, well, would you like to learn the guitar? She's like, I would love to. And that was their way of bonding, right? He bonded with his daughter over music and the guitar, and then he passed that on to Ellie, and she's stuck with it, obviously. And obviously, to see the guitar in pristine condition. Thank God for those silicon beads. I had to ask John about that. I'm like, is that weed? He goes, no. He goes, I think it's the silicon beads that keeps the moisture out of the case. And I'm like, okay, that makes more sense. But I was impressed. Obviously, I've never heard Bella sing before, let alone play. Didn't know that Bella could play guitar. And I love the stripped down acoustic version of the song. It gives me, it reminds me of the trailers that we would see of season 1 of The Last of Us. And it was this like kind of slowed down version of Enjoy the Silence from Depeche Mode. And that's like one of my all-time favorite songs of life. Seen them a couple of times in concert and they're just great. But when you're so used to hearing a song in a certain way, in a certain tempo, and then you hear it in a different manner, and also consider the setting that Ellie is in, right? It's a beautiful set, absolutely beautiful set. You got the sun coming in from behind. You've got all the nature's like taking over the building once again, and then you have Dina who clearly is withholding some sort of feelings towards Ellie, and then you just see it across her face, the smile, like it was just genuine. And I wondered too how many takes this may have taken for the shot to be just right. I can only imagine what it would have been like for Isabela to have witnessed this for the very first time, hearing Bella play, her singing, and just be like, how could you not like be serenaded? How could you not develop some sort of emotion or feeling towards this individual, right? I mean, I was low-key kind of falling in love too, but like I music means so much to me, and it kind of gave me vibes of like when my brother, who also is a self-taught guitarist, he plays More Than Words all the time. Like that's like his go-to song that he always plays, and I was like, oh my god, if that song had been used in this moment, saying I love you is, what I'm saying. But no, I this song was just, it was great. It was great. I was like, is she gonna hit that falsetto? Because that would probably kill the vibe. But I loved how it was tweaked and just in a day or two. It's like, oh, that's good. That's good because I can hit that register.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
I looked it up. It's the MTV Unplugged version of Take on Me.
Okay. That's
I remember
cool.
when that came out, it was a big deal because it was like, what? Like this is like a real song. It's not just like a not just like a
80s was a weird time.
Smash.
Let's be real.
Like I said, it sounds like a GTA, like a song that's playing on the radio and Grand Theft Auto.
There you go. Good point. Another video game tie-in.
It was such a great scene. I think that hands down is my favorite scene.
Yeah.
Thus far in this whole season. It's going to be hard to kind of top that one. But the moment that the two girls share with Dina saying, wow, like you've gotten better. And it's like, yeah, all those lessons with Joel. And Dina's like, he taught you well. And Nellie's like, yeah. So, I mean, I think that was just a beautiful moment to like honor Joel in a way. And he still hasn't left my mind, Tristan. God damn it.
Let's go from a beautiful scene to a brutal scene because Dina and Ellie find their way to a TV station, and there they see that we've seen WLF has been pretty brutal with how they killed members of the Seraphites, and the Seraphites can play the same game and maybe even worse because they have in this TV station they've killed several WLF soldiers, and they've like strung them up, and their intestines are hanging down, and they're lit where you can see them. And then on the wall, they've spelled out in blood, "Feel her love," in reference to their prophet. Tristan, what do you think about how this scene looked? And is this in the game also?
This is in the game. Some differences. This happens during the day.
Okay.
And there's a lot more WLF guys. It's like this again, you're saying you're in a TV station. There's so many levels to it, that you have to find your way pretty much from damn near like the 10th floor or something like that. Find your way down. And again, this takes place during the day. So I like the twist of having them do this at night. I feel like in a lot of ways, Craig Mazin is like talking to Neil Druckmann and saying, hey, this was beautiful in the game, but like this makes no sense, because it makes no sense for them to like in the game to like try to infiltrate this TV station, just two people, you know, against potentially a lot more WLF soldiers during the day. Like this is something that you would sneak in and see during the nighttime. But everything else for the most part is accurate from the game. Like even the way they find their way into the building, sneaking through the glass, everything they find. Like again, it's just there's way more levels that you have to go through, but this is a television show. So I do appreciate how well it's adapted. The seeing the brutality, this TV station scene is so important to me, because this, while it may not by itself move the entire story along, you know, like I think perfectly, like people would think, what it does is this is going into like the motivations of our characters, because Ellie and Dina, as we know, coming to Seattle just kind of thinking shit is sweet. It's like, hey, you know, it's only a few WLF guys. We should be able to boom, boom, in and out. We right back. Like, no, you're walking into a war.
Yeah.
Right. And especially in the game, like the entire second game is about Ellie's journey throughout this war, like all these different obstacles, or seeing this war played out from so many different perspectives. So like, if they have not already gotten a reality check, like here's your reality check. You are walking into some fucked up shit, and it's fucked up shit literally everywhere, in every corner of the city that they touch. So it's like, how far are you willing to go for this vengeance? You know, how far are you willing to go to complete this mission? Because the logical thing is, once I see all that shit swinging up, it may be time to pack this shit up and go home, right? And come out with a better plan, because you had no clue, you had no intel, you know, in this apocalyptic world of like what's going on. Like all you know is some shit that Eugene said, you know, months or years past, about one of these factions. But she's piecing together, you know, all the different, who the Seraphites are, you know, that there is a war between the Seraphites and the Wolves, is piecing together what's happened with, you know, even the federal officers. Like there's so many things that have happened in the city that they just don't know about, that they have to find out, because it's not even a side quest. Like that's going to become the mission, just to get to the overall mission, which is Abby and Nora and, you know, Noah and the rest of these wolves that were there that killed Joel. So like the city itself is an obstacle. So I think it's really important for them to see in gruesome terms, like, hey, bro, whatever you thought the Seattle shit is way. Abby told Joel, like obviously before she killed him, but like, hey, bro, like if you're ever in Seattle, which you should never go to, because that shit is lit at every single corner and crevice of that city. So I thought it was a very important scene. You see again the roles that Ellie and Dina play. Like Ellie obviously is primarily the brawn, you know, even though she's really smart. Dina is the one who thinks ahead, but like there's times where obviously Ellie has to save Dina, right? And that mirrors the game so perfectly. And make those sacrifices and be the one to take on these bigger obstacles for Dina. And that's something that obviously is going to come up a lot more in Dina's condition. But I thought it was a great scene. You know, I love the changes made from the video games into that one, you know, having it at night, decreasing the number of like WLF soldiers to make it obviously more palpable for television. Great scene.
Yeah, no doubt. And Brittany in there, Tristan mentioned about how Ellie would have to try to save Dina, and that's what we get to next, because they're in the TV station. They run into this backup squad from WLF, and they're able to escape. They kill a couple of those guys, and then as they're getting away, they find the infected in a subway. They're running on train cars. It's pretty crazy. They're trying to run through a turnstile, and all of a sudden, that's when Dina gets stuck. Here comes one of the infected to bite her. That's when Ellie sticks out her arm, and makes, what Dina thinks is a sacrifice, but really it's the smart play. What'd you think about that whole action scene?
Fucking scary. Okay. I mean, I mentioned in the episode where Abby runs into Joel after being chased by the infected in Wyoming, how when the fence was starting to cave on top of her, it gave me like Jon Snow being buried alive in Battle of the Bastards vibe. Like this also gave me the same claustrophobic, I'm about to be buried in this train along with these two girls by the infected, right? Because they're trying to find a way to get into the carriages to take them out, what have you. And the girls are running from carriage to carriage, and they barely get into the second carriage, close the door before a clicker pops up and in the window, and it's like, fuck, like, no. I just don't want to see that. These broccoli faced mother effers, like, I don't want to see that. It was scary. It definitely achieved the goal of keeping you on your toes, you're at the edge of your seats, and when they finally are able to make it onto the roof of the subways to try to escape them and get caught in the, what'd you call it? A turnstile? I don't think I ever knew what that thing was called.
I think it's a turnstile from what I can tell. Yeah.
I learned something new today in this pod. I did not know that that's what that was called.
I mean, it's pretty rusted, like older turnstile. Yeah.
It is. For Dina to witness that her best friend, someone that she is clearly interested in, puts her arm out to be bitten by the infected, and Dina's like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened, and is hesitant to continue following Ellie because in their experience with people being bitten by the infected, they too become infected and need to be killed before things get really nasty, right? And for Dina to be put in that position of, I'm with Ellie, I have to shoot her in the head. I mean, I couldn't imagine what that would have looked like for her and how that would have felt, knowing that she was keeping a really big secret from Ellie as they travel from Wyoming to Washington State. Crazy.
And I think this was the best performance by both of them, but definitely from Bella Ramsey. Honestly, no, both of them, because Tristan, legitimately thought Dina was going to shoot Ellie. Like, that's how well it was played, right?
Yeah.
On both sides. From Dina, like, just the way she picks the gun up that second time, like after Ellie's kind of like made the initial plea and told her she was immune, like she picks that gun up with like some gusto. I'm like, oh my God, Dina, please don't shoot her. Like I was scared. Like it literally, and that's, and I'm in my mind, I'm like, that's irrational. Like what's gonna happen here,
right,
for the most part. But I legitimately thought she was gonna shoot her, and that's acting. That that's what the performance is supposed to do. Like it's supposed to kind of reorient like your mind and put you into that mode. So, and I'm seeing it in Bella Ramsey's face, like the fear of, there's so many different fears happening at the same time. It's like the fear of like, I have to reveal this thing that I've been sworn by, two of the most important people in my life to like keep, because of reasons X, Y, and Z. Like is this fear that somebody I love is going to have to make the very rational decision after seeing me get bit in this world that we live in to put a bullet in my head, right? Like, and the fear that she understands, she can see it in Dina's eyes, like the conflict of, I don't want to do this, but I absolutely am going to do this. Like, little does she know that Dina has an extra motivation for like wanting to protect herself. And Bella, it just played beautiful. When I was just on the rewatch, I'm watching it, and I'm, granted, under the influence. So like, I'm just watching. I'm focusing in on like the facial movements and the shortage of the breath. Like, just that's how you play being in fear. Like in your very last moments before you see somebody raise that gun and get ready to like actually commit that action. But that was my favorite, if not my favorite scene, it was definitely my favorite performance by both of those characters. I thought it was amazing. Like I almost paused and like got up and started clapping. That was A+. That was Steph and KD Warriors 2017. Please, Brittany, go look that up there. I'll send you a YouTube link. It'll make sense.
Yeah. Maybe we can get like a highlight video with the Aha Unplugged Think on Me playing in the background or something.
Yeah, don't know, don't care. It's fine. I trust your word, Tristan and Justin. And it's fine. If y'all say that that's true, yes, workshops. Okay, workshops. That I understand. That I understand. No, I mean, for that moment to play out the way that it did, and for Ellie to like beg for her life, right, and to negotiate and to try to reason. Dina clearly does not want to do this. She doesn't want to have to shoot Ellie in the head. She's like, please don't talk. Don't make this any harder than it has to be. But Ellie taps into Dina's sense of logic, right? Where it obviously was to her benefit. And yes, you had that slight kind of concern when Ellie's asleep, but the water keeps falling on her face, and you know that wakes you up, that startles you, and you're gonna react really quickly. And for Dina, it's like whoa, you know, gun, flashlight, what are you doing? and Ellie, to prove to Dina, you know, by sticking out her hand that's an arm that is bandaged, she's like, look, I'm not shaking. I completely forgot that was one of the symptoms of having, you know, been infected. Look, I'm not shaking. Look, you can see here, blah blah blah, and This is the part that I'm in pure disbelief with. It's like we go from 0 to 100 really quickly with Ellie showing that she is indeed immune. She's fine. There's nothing to worry about. Dina is like just beside herself at this point, relieved, and says to Ellie, I'm pregnant. Drops everything, rushes to her. They start making out, and they're gonna do the nasty. You know, you do what you got to do. I understand that, you know, everyone needs relief after something as heavy and as strenuous as that whole ordeal may have been. But God damn it, ladies, wash your hands. Wash your hands. We don't need UTI infections. You don't need to use that monostat that they found early on so quickly. Like, Jesus Christ, please wash your hands, people.
Yeah, because we obviously, Ellie had a big secret about being immune. Now we find out that Dina has a big secret about being pregnant. Before we get to the pregnant stuff, which we're definitely going to talk about, my one thing about the immunity, I'm surprised that Dina didn't have more questions. I'm surprised she didn't ask her, like, how long have you known this? How long, you know, like, does anyone else know? Like, how is this possible? Like when when Ellie tells her, like, I'm immune, I thought we were going to get like a big discussion about, well, okay, what does that mean? Like, how did you find out? What, you know, what made you immune? I was a little surprised we didn't get that. Tristan, did you have any thoughts on that level, or?
No, I thought about that,
Yeah.
especially on a rewatch. I'm like, I surprised, like at least one question, like, hey, how did this happen? But I think that's something that will be revealed. Like, maybe I think Ellie will tell her, you know, later on in the season. I don't know for sure, but definitely Dina will learn, and Ellie, honestly, there's so much about Ellie's immunity that she doesn't even know, because there's so much about the infected that still is to be known as we go forward. And we'll find out about in next episode with the spores. So I think naturally those conversations will happen. I don't know how much Ellie has told Dina about her mother, you know, and the connection with Marlene and all these things, or how, you know, essentially how she got to Jackson with Joel. You know, I don't think much of that has been revealed, because it's not supposed to have been revealed. So yeah, I think it's something that's gradual. It's not something that Ellie talks about a lot. She didn't talk about it a lot with Joel, you know what I'm saying? So like, Dina would literally be the first person that she's had like these long form conversations about, you know. So I did think that just logically, like, at least one question, but just me kind of knowing the story, like, I feel like that's just something that will be revealed later on as we go.
It's almost like, you know, like when Ellie tells her that she's immune, it's like that gave Dina the green light to be like, okay, I have to unburden I have a secret.
I have needs.
Also, yeah. Well, that too, but also you told me something that's, a big secret. I have something to tell you. And it was kind of,
and also Dina, like literally the night before, I thought, man, I was going to have to kill my best friend / crush, like this could be the last thing. So like, they live in a world where every day literally can be your last. Every hour can be your last. Anything can trip you up. Like, there's not the same concept of I'll do this later. So like, I'll tell her how I feel later. You know what I'm saying? We'll discuss this later. I'll be vulnerable later. It's like, no, let's handle these things now. You know what I'm saying? Like, because she just saw like a visual manifestation of all this could be gone in a second. So like, this might be our last night, last day on Earth. So let's just do it. Yes, please wash your hands. But I don't know to what extent. Like, this is also a world where they shower like maybe once every week. So
yeah,
if that, so this is just the world we're in. This is post-apocalyptic.
Exactly. So we find out that Nadine is pregnant. Jesse's the father, but she wants Ellie to kind of take on the role of being the, or maybe
Daddy.
it's gonna be what's a not triplet, but triumvirate, thruple, yeah. But we find out, no surprise, that Dina doesn't just like boys; she likes boys and girls. And she explains what she told her mom when she was a kid. Brittany, what'd you think about the acting in this scene? They're how they have this new thing they have to deal with, which is Dina's pregnant. That adds a whole nother layer to their mission. To, like Tristan said, how they're just living hour by hour. Now they've got another stake to add to the story.
To be concerned about Dina's well-being, her safety, because she is carrying a child, right? And she still is going to go wherever Ellie is going to go. That much is pretty determined, even before seeing the preview for next week's episode. I I liked how we got the backstory, a little bit more backstory about Dina herself, because that's something we have yet to really come across. And to an earlier point about the conversation between the two about, well, how is it that you're immune? Like, how did you find out? That kind of thing. I don't think that those conversations are necessary to be had like on screen. I think if anything, it would just be a conversation they would have like off screen. But I think having this conversation on screen for Dina to be that vulnerable and to share with Ellie something that she clearly hasn't ever shared with her prior. I mean, they've been best friends for quite some time now. They're like lovers. It's new, but Dina didn't not trust, but she just didn't feel comfortable enough to share that part of her life with Ellie. And now she does, obviously, like to that point of we're trying to survive by every hour. And, we don't know when that hour is up. So I like the fact that we had this very vulnerable conversation, and how it is true to society even today. I think Dina's character is also like Hispanic, and that's just something that Hispanic families really don't handle well, with their child being anything other than straight or anything other than what the family wants them to be. And that's just rings true to the culture. Just saying, not hating on it, just saying. But I liked how that was all played out, and just how like understanding Ellie was, and just very, thoughtful she was with like the hair stroking and just like the physical touch. Like that's like a love language that's one of my love languages. And I liked how that also was like just incorporated between the two. Really important conversation. And I think for Ellie to feel the need to protect Dina now more so than ever is probably going to cause some struggle between the two, right? Dina's all in, but Ellie wants to do right and take care of Dina.
but Ellie also has to take care of Ellie, and
It's
a
true.
lot of that is the vengeance. It's the overall mission that she's on in the first place. But I thought that scene was a perfect callback to the earlier, part of the episode where they're going through Seattle, Capitol Hill, and they're seeing the pride flags and the pride slogans, and like this is just a world they don't know, right? But even though they haven't experienced it, they haven't experienced, the world before. What did the world look like in early 2003, before the outbreak, and the different views and the way we treated people who are, identify as LGBTQ. They just don't know anything about that. Like they don't also know about the resistance to that, so when Dina's mother is telling her, you're going to like boys, right? Like this is Dina's mother bringing something from the old world into the new one, right? Like essentially like just the restricting, the discouragement of, being bisexual. Like for Dina, it's like, what the fuck? Like I like boys and like girls. Like what's the big deal? Like that's just something that is something that's learned from a previous world that no longer exists. But like you could still bring in those same ideologies, and it mirrors Isaac, like, and his ideology and being somebody who was about justice, but bringing in the same tribalism that he tried to get away from. Like we're still bringing in these old world concepts in this new world order, essentially post-apocalypse. So yeah, that's all I thought about. I was just like, yo, like even though we're here and this is what late 2000s, 2019, they would have been born 2004ish or something like that. But like all that stuff still filters its way in, and like essentially it's the same world, just with
Well, I think
rules.
is this not 2029 in
it's
their
2029,
right?
Ellie is 19.
Yeah.
But we know that she's born during like I don't know, Ellie's supposed to be 19, so she'd be born in 2010.
2010,
My math
yeah.
So yeah, like 2010, around that age. They simply don't know about that world, right? But like Dina has still had to be a victim, whether she knew it or not, of that same bigotry, those same bigoted ideas about sexuality, gender, yada yada. So I thought that was a really interesting way and a great callback to them going through and seeing these pride flags and just having no clue whatsoever about it.
Yeah.
But whether they know it or not, they are also very privy to like the same restricted thoughts that people have about bisexual nature and anything that's non-heterosexual.
Yeah. I mean, that much was determined with Seth and in his derogatory term, because he would remember. He would know what that world was like prior to the apocalypse. So yeah, it's hate is taught, people. Hate is taught.
Speaking of hate, we end on the final part of the episode is I can't remember which character had the radio, but they overhear
Dina.
Okay, Dina had the radio. They overhear Abby's friend Nora. She's either on the radio or she's mentioned. And
she's mentioned.
They both know, hey, she's one of the people we know the names. We know her name. So let's it's time to go get her. So it's then we have the conversation of, basically Ellie's not sure if Dina should go. Dina tells her that she wants to go with her. And so they are on, continuing their way through Seattle to try to find Abby and her crew. And I'm guessing we'll get a lot more of that in episode 5.
Yep.
What'd you think about how this episode ended, Tristan?
I mean, this is a complete parallel from the game, but like this sets the course for not just their relationship, but just the rest of the story in the season, I would suppose. Like Ellie said, like this changes things. Like this pregnancy changes things. To what extent it changes Ellie and her actions and the decisions she makes, we'll see. But it definitely changes some things, and it definitely adds a different layer of like, I would say, importance, urgency in their relationship, care. Ellie is always, even before this, like we see Ellie's been the one who saves Dina. But Ellie also needs Dina around her to like control some of her worst urges. And there's gonna be times where she's gonna have to make the decision of, do I take Dina with me because I need her for not just for like physical support, but like that emotional support, mental support. Or do I leave her behind in search of like this larger mission that I'm on, and in the very brutal things in a lot of ways that she might have to do in order to achieve that mission. So yeah, I thought it did a really good job of like setting the course for the next episode. Like they tell you, hey, this is the building, like, and this is, again, that's from the game. Like, see that building, and like it zooms in onto that building. It's all the way the fuck across town. It's like, okay, you know what you had to go through just to get to this hotel and to this building, like this, essentially like your hideout place. Like now you know where you need to go to get to the next step in the next game section, right? Like the next level, essentially. And they're gonna have to go through some shit to get there.
Yeah, that much is clear from the look ahead to next week. Brittany, there's 3 episodes left. Now after episode 2, we lost Joel. We haven't seen Abby since then either. Now we're gonna see her again. But my question for you is, there's 3 episodes left. I think we're getting 1 Joel episode, or what do you think? What's your prediction? Are we seeing him one more time, or are we seeing him at all? Or is it just gonna be a flashback in one of the episodes?
If I had to say we're going to see Joel again at some capacity, I would imagine it's a flashback, or unless, well, I guess it still would be a flashback, but unless they actually come across Abby and Abby is just really wanting to torture Ellie with the last moments of Joel, or like the moments preceding Joel's last moments, right? Of what they talked about, how she shot him in the leg, how she started wailing on him with the golf club, et cetera, et cetera. I hope we don't see any of those brutal moments, because in the episode we didn't see. You could just hear the screams, you could hear everyone else reacting to the violence. I just hope we don't see it like that. I'm hoping it could be something, maybe a scene between Ellie and Joel, a discussion that we've yet to see. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't really actually anticipate seeing Joel again in this season. I would be pleasantly surprised, and I would welcome it, obviously. I just don't know. Just like how I didn't know how you guessed that Dina was going to shoot Ellie because she figured out that Ellie had been bitten or infected or something like that.
The only reason why she would turn a gun on Ellie would be if she thought she was bitten and had to kill her.
And I thought maybe there was an infected running up behind Ellie, and Ellie just wasn't there to.
That could have been the case too, but I just thought they so focused on both of them, like it seemed like, yeah. Tristan, I think that we're gonna have to have a Eugene episode, or a portion of a Eugene.
Have to.
So that's going to be where we're going to see Joel, I assume. But do you think we're going to get any other kind of Joel flashbacks? Or
I think there's a 99% chance we get more Joel. One, because we're going to get Pedro Pascal for more than 2 episodes. Like, that's just going to happen. Like, and I mean, I don't even think this is a spoiler. Like, so much of the game is built off of flashbacks.
Yeah.
It's like, you get those flashbacks, a lot of flashbacks. I don't know how much of them we'll get. We may get 1 flashback in the last 3 episodes, and just kind of have to live with that. But I definitely think you will get at least 1 flashback. We'll definitely see Pedro Pascal again the rest of the season. I don't know this for sure. Like I don't, because of how much they might stretch out until season 3. But this is just my guess, because we've had so many time jumps forward that there's so much space left in between that we just haven't gotten full context from. So I think they're going to give us that context.
So I have a quick question, and y'all need to remind me. Eugene was part of the Fireflies, right?
Yeah. or was he
Originally,
WLF?
yes.
Okay.
Originally. Okay, but
Yes,
prior
he
to
was a Firefly.
Was he also affiliated with Fedra or
Yes.
WLF? Okay. I'm just trying to draw the connection as to like
Yeah.
why we would get a Eugene episode, like the significance behind it. But if he has like ties to Fedra, Wolf, Fireflies, obviously.
The Fedra to Firefly pipeline is very strong. Like it's
Okay. Okay.
it's a very
Okay.
prevalent one.
Okay. No, then then I support whatever Tristan says because he knows better than I.
I also think we're going to get the Eugene episode because we need to see how or why Joel kills Eugene, because obviously that was such a big thing between Gale and Joel in the first episode. I think we're going to have to get that explanation of like, it seems like maybe Joel jumped the gun in killing Eugene. Just my guess. I don't have any other knowledge, but
Oh my.
But or maybe it's a misunderstanding.
I trust the writers.
Yeah,
I trust the writers enough to not continuously like pull that thread and not just kind of leave it there. You know what I'm saying? So I trust them to not just input that into the dialogue at least a couple times and just like never come back to that. Like they haven't done that honestly once in these first 2 seasons so far. So I trust like that's a device that they are setting up for like future use. I just have to trust that. Like,
yeah,
maybe they'll prove me wrong, but I have to trust. I trust Craig Mazin at this point. And
yeah, and because there's so much and everything is so well done, and because there's so much happening, it's easy to kind of forget those little moments where Jesse's like, "Oh, that's too bad about Eugene. How about how Joel had to take him out?"
Yeah.
Like, those references, like they don't just bring up characters for no reason. So we're gonna get something at some point, I assume, but we only have 3 episodes left, so we're running out of time.
To that point, Justin, I want to pose a question to both of y'all as well as the live chat. In light of the new information we have learned about Dina and her condition, will they make it back to Wyoming? Or is something going to happen for Dina to lose the baby?
No comment.
Tristan definitely knows the answer to your question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Tristan, you're out because obviously you know far better than the rest of us. Justin, I'm going to pick on you, and then I'm going to pick on those in the chat as well, or those watching the replay. Let us know your thoughts on what's going to happen. What do you think will happen to Dina, Ellie? Dina and her delicate condition. Are they also going to make it back to Wyoming at any point this season?
Someone's got to make it back to Wyoming, or Tommy has to come from Wyoming. Like, we got to get that connection from Jackson Hole. That we can't be done with that.
Jesse.
Yeah, that's a that's a good. I could see Jesse and Tommy heading to Seattle to try to help them out. I don't know, but I hope so. I mean, I definitely don't want to see Dina die or lose the baby. That would be pretty brutal. Although that's the world they live in, and maybe that's what Ellie has to go through in this story, or maybe Ellie's the one who dies. And Dina and the baby survive. I don't know, but it's all on the table. Looking forward to seeing how it plays out.
So I know this is a world where like no one gets a happy ending. However, if this ends up happening and if the baby ends up being a boy, I hope they name the baby Joel. Have some happiness in your life. Also, where is Shimmer? Why is no one concerned about Shimmer?
Of course, yeah.
I'm very concerned about the well-being of this animal. Please let Shimmer live.
Shimmer is still in the music shop.
I know, but I need her to be okay and stay okay.
Just listen to Aha on a loop. Just love it. Life.
Eat some grass and
all the grass she can eat, by the way.
Yeah, for real.
A lot of green in Seattle.
Yes, I've partaken.
Tristan, as we kind of get out of here, is there anything we didn't mention you want to bring up?
No, I think we honestly got everything. Next week is going to be a doozy, man. It's going to be a doozy. Watching this episode at the same time as a game 7 involving your favorite team.
Too soon. Stop it. Too soon.
Literally at the same time.
Yeah.
And then like it got to like the fourth quarter, or beginning of the fourth quarter was happening at the same time. because I started a little bit later.
Yeah.
So as they're in the train station, essentially, like all this, and then Dina almost shooting Ellie, I'm like, my heart is jumping out of my fucking chest. But it was a great night. Again, I understand if like this was just a good episode for a lot of people. For me, it was phenomenal in a lot of different ways. And again, I think they will top episode 2. I think that's definitely going to happen. Like,
I'm glad that for you, as I believe the only person from the podcast who's played the game, that you're very pleased with how everything has played out thus far with the show, because obviously creative liberties will be had. Sometimes things can't be translated from the material source to television for reasons that are beyond me. However, because this is a game that is made for TV or some gaming device, and you have like the visuals, like how difficult it really is it to reproduce, right? If not just to like cut down just for time purposes. But I'm glad to hear at least that you have been content with the storytelling based on this game.
It's a perfect marriage because Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann are working together. It's not like, Benioff and Weiss kind of pulling from the source material and then kind of having George R. R. Martin consult. Like, Mazin and Druckmann are working together. Like, Mazin is going to Druckmann, just from the conversations in the podcast. He's going to him and say, hey, this thing this Bill and Frank, like, what if we stretch that out? Like, what if we did this, and adding to, and in some cases taking off, but like, as long as there's a clear clarity between those two, because those are the two most important people, right? Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin, as long as they are working together. And I can tell from listening to Craig Mazin, this is done with a need for care. Like, he has played the game and understands the story. The reason why The Last of Us, as we wrap this up, the reason why The Last of Us is my favorite game of all time is because the story is just as important as the gameplay. The story and the gameplay go hand in hand. They are literally one and the same. So, like, that's why I knew it would be fucking fire with an HBO budget. Because, again, just listening to them talk, like, they have a clear understanding of the story and where the different possibilities that the story can take. And not just kind of looking at it. I think Benioff and Weiss looked at Game of Thrones, or at least 70% of Game of Thrones, from a position of like contempt in a lot of ways. They didn't like a lot of the magic shit, the sci-fi shit, and just kind of wanted to give it so much of the battle, sex, and dragons thrown in here and there, but like they didn't really understand the beauty behind it. You know what I'm saying? And from everything that I've seen, Craig Mazin and HBO understands the beauty behind the story and like the different places they can take the story. And that's what they're doing. And I've been very happy with the pace of it. And that game, Last of Us 2 is long as shit. Like, there's just so many different things that if I'm making a television show, I'm making a television series, that I can boil some of those things down while still getting the same action, the same dialogue, and literally the same story. And I trust those two to make that happen. And so far they've hit every lick for me. So I have no complaints. I'm thinking of a complaint because it's a game that I hold in such high esteem, and they've done nothing but like they've killed it on every level. So you get no complaints from me. When there's time for a complaint, I'll give it, but I haven't reached that point. And then the performances have just been fucking amazing. So
yeah.
The cinematography, everything is work. This is my favorite show. This is my favorite show.
Yeah, it's like I said a million times. It's such a well-made show that like, I thought episode 4 was a really good episode, but like it it's just a part of like the next one I feel like will be as good or better, and I feel like the next one's the same thing. It'll just keep going and going. And just really great stuff. Well said by Tristan there. So now you know what we thought about episode 4 of season 2 of The Last of Us. We want to know what you think about it. And Brittany, how can people let us know?
Well, just like King B. Johnson, Yesenia, Christian McDorks, we appreciate you all taking the time out of your day to join us for today's live chat. We hope you will return for our next live stream on The Last of Us, which will be next Monday. So be sure you're subscribed, hit that subscription button down below, hit the like button, and also hit that notification bell. That way you will be alerted when we go live next, which actually will be tomorrow. We'll be wrapping up episodes 6 through 10 of the final season of Netflix You. And at some point, Amber and I will return for the latest episodes on The Handmaid's Tale. We're crazy busy, y'all. It's a wild time, but we hope you will join us. Also, follow our social media. All the links are in the description box down below. And lastly, we also have audio podcasts available to you on Apple and Spotify. Give us a follow and give us a 5-star rating. And also, don't forget to tell others about us as well. The Infected, Fedra, WLF. Tell them all. Tell them we're here. Tell them we're all ready to talk shit. And no, just kidding.
The Seraphites too. Don't forget about the
Seraphites. Oh, yeah. Can't forget about the Seraphites. Yeah, just tell everyone about us. We'd really appreciate all the support. Even more so. We're presently at, I believe, 447 subscribers. We're on the road to 500. So help make that goal happen.
Thank you, Brittany. I appreciate it. So for Brittany and for Tristan, I am Justin saying thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will see you next time. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
I'll be home. In a day or two.